Did you know that kidnapping in South Africa has surged by over 250% in the last decade alone? We clearly have a human trafficking crisis at our hands as a nation, and we cannot delay this conversation any further. So let's discuss it today. Also, when I say, are you ready? You say, yeah, bro. You might be asking yourself, what is all the cheer and jubilee about? Well, guys, I cannot hide my awe and complete excitement when it comes to what it is that the Botswana government is doing with its young people. We have seen the release of the cabinet ministers' names, and it's just so exciting to see the young ministers that are there. If we are talking about a government that is walking its talk, this is what we mean. Because this whole saying that the future or the young people are the leaders of tomorrow, no, that's ancient news, chat. Okay, young people are leading today, not tomorrow. Okay. Also, can all the men, can all the brothers come to the front, just step on right up, okay? Because I want to talk about something that I really was encouraged by, which is Egyptian men who are standing against FGM in their country. This is an amazing illustration of how they are using their privilege as well as their access to fight patriarchal cultural norms that have for some time oppressed women and have really made it difficult for women in cases that we are not really discussed enough. And so I really love the story because of how it just illustrates the ways in which allyship can look like, but more importantly, it shows us how men and women can both have a role and a part to play in us advancing the causes that matter to us most as a people. So as you can see, so many exciting, so many great things to talk about. I can't wait to get into it, so stay tuned as we do so. Hello guys, and welcome back to another great episode. I am so excited to have you all here and joining me today to discuss some of these topics. As you would have seen from the thumbnail, the main topic of today is not really an exciting or fun one, but I thought it important, to discuss it and really bring it to light, considering that it is an unfortunate reality that our nation is currently faced with. And so because of that, I also wanted to bring it up so that we can make ourselves more informed about what exactly is going on when it comes to this issue of human trafficking and kidnapping, because it really seems like we as a country are becoming this hotspot and this hub for this crisis. I also wanted to bring this conversation up because of how the 2024 Trafficking in Persons report highlighted that law enforcement agencies continue to lack the necessary capacity and training to effectively identify and refer trafficking victims to care. And this just really made me realize that yet again, it is, everyone's responsibility to come together and really, create the kind of society that we want to live in. And so even though this might be something that has not necessarily happened to you or to anyone that you might know of, if you are a South African living in South Africa, or even just an African living in any other African state where you do know of like human trafficking to any kind of degree, this is an issue that could happen to anyone at any moment. And I think the more we know, the better, right? So having said all of that, I want to first start off with sharing a bit of context, right? And that context being the fact that the Hawks, and the Hawks is like this investigative institution or organization. They basically they had an operation. They conducted a raid in Sandringham. That's how you say it. In Johannesburg, and this was conducted on the 10th of January. And in this raid, they had rescued 26 individuals, and all of these individuals were Ethiopian nationals who were found naked, confined, and had was seen to have suffered severe mistreatment. So this story was what brought the whole issue of human trafficking in South Africa. It just threw it to the forefront and has really started this conversation around just how bad things are becoming when it comes to human trafficking and it comes to kidnapping. How the raid was or how the raid came to be was because of how one of the victims managed to escape by breaking a window and the burglar bars, and they went out to then try and find help from nearby residents in the area. Throughout this raid, 3 people were arrested, and they have been charged with conducting human trafficking, kidnapping, extortion, and contravention of the Immigration Act, as well as for them having or possessing illegal firearms, which were also seized at the area. So currently the Hawks is continuing this investigation, because when one bust like this happens, it often opens a door or it gives more information to other similar operations, rings, or syndicates that are happening within the area or nearby. So it should be interesting to see if the Hawks will be able to find out more information, thus being able to rescue more people, and also most importantly be able to give us more information on how exactly are these syndicates and these networks operating in our country. So one thing that I want to really highlight in this particular episode is firstly ways like preventative measures that women and children can try to take when it comes to having them not become victims of human trafficking. And I specifically focus on women and children because these are oftentimes the main victims that are abducted to join or to be put into this network. But then another thing also I really want to focus on and highlight is how we can recognize some signs of human trafficking, because I think another thing that really just left me so bamboozled is the fact that these human trafficking rings or syndicates rather, they normally house or host themselves in these very affluent neighborhoods. So that just means that these are places that you would overlook and you wouldn't even think twice when it comes to thinking that something suspicious could be happening. And then so without wasting any more time, let's get into some of the preventative measures. So I was able to get 5 in doing the research, and I really think that these are really helpful considering. So the first is to stay vigilant in public spaces, to be aware of everything that's happening in your surroundings and to try and avoid distractions. This one is a bit difficult to do, because it is very easy to get taken by everything that's happening when you are out and about. But I specifically found this point to be rather significant, considering the fact that I remember sometime last year there was a case where a young lady, I believe it was in Menlyn Mall, she was nearly kidnapped, and it happened when she went to the bathroom. So as she was using the bathroom, somebody came and tried to drag her and abduct her, but luckily she was able to be rescued, and she just shared that story to bring awareness. So this just is one of those stories that show that this can happen anywhere at any time, and hence us needing to constantly be vigilant wherever it is that we are. The second thing is to try and find various ways of establishing trusted communication. So if you know that as a woman, or you have you have children that will be going out and will not necessarily be within your proximity where you can easily see them, have some kind of way of sharing your whereabouts or sharing your children's like whereabouts, so that somebody somewhere other than yourself as the parent or the main guardian can know about, you know, where the children are, or can know where you are as well. Also, I think this will tie in nicely with the third one, which is about just the use of like, you know, public transportation systems and some of the things that one can do to just remain vigilant. Because another way that like these that people are human trafficked or kidnapped is through the use of public transportation, or as they just walking out in public, they'll be like abducted. I do know that also there was like a sub in the south that had an issue where they had like a white, you know, taxi was just going around and just like abducting, you know, ladies at like these very odd hours of the day. So, or another way that they would do it is that you would get onto a taxi thinking that, oh, okay, this is just going to my normal destination, and then midway you find out that, oh, there's only 2 or 3 people that are there, and they're not even like actual passengers. They are part of the people who are like in this kidnapping or, you know, human trafficking operation. So yeah, but anyways, just to say that when one is using any forms of like public transport, to, you know, just be vigilant of like what you call this, the transport itself. So if you are using an Uber, make sure that the number plate checks out with the one that you have. If you are like using a taxi, I know that if you are somebody who uses taxis frequently, to know that each taxi has like an association sticker. So like those kind of things help you to identify if this is really a taxi that is within the association and is like actually working, you know, the circuit, or it's just one of those hired, you know, taxis or like minibuses that are just trying to like just take people unaware. Another thing obviously is to avoid hitchhiking. I you know, when you travel long distance, for me, I still am shocked at how at seeing people hitchhike. But you know, yeah, that's just one thing that I think to try by all means to avoid. Another one which I also found, you know, really important is the education of children when it comes to the kind of like dangers that exist when they're in public, or the kind of danger that strangers can, you know, can kind of bring to them. And one, you know, tip I really liked and I thought was really cool and interesting was having a safe word between, you know, guardians or parents with their kids. So this safe word is just a word a child can use with any stranger who's coming to like offer them something, or say, oh, I'm here to take you, or, you know, or take you somewhere because, you know, your parents or your guardian sent me, whatever it is. They can use that safe word to just ensure that, oh, okay, yeah, your story actually checks out. And I also think that this is like just a very simple way, because it's kind of sort of, it's like easy for kids to remember, because kids can't, obviously there's only so much information that they can take, but something as simple like, you know, just having a safe word that, you know, is between you, the child, and, you know, your immediate network, that can be used by the child, I think is also you know, just very beneficial. I do remember seeing also on TikTok there was like this huge discussion that was happening about AirTags. One you know, popular TikToker did refer or suggest that parents get like AirTags for their children, and I think this is also really a great idea because of how it can help you constantly know your child's whereabouts and their location, or even just your loved one's location at all times, because you can easily just track it on any mobile device that you are using. Also, I think, you know, because of how these AirTags come in like different, like, you know, molds and sizes, you can put them in places where it's easily like, you know, it won't be so easily visible to somebody who would try like and abduct a child. So another thing, and I think this one is one that has gotten a lot of traction online, and I think it's one that we constantly need to be, you know, making like PSAs about, and that is having a secure online presence. And one thing I often, you know, I am definitely a big advocate for is that if you are somebody who, you know, posts frequently on social media, and you also even post your kids, is to really limit having what you call this, the location because that also just does make it easier for like these kidnappers and human traffickers, especially those who are after kids, to be able to like just monitor the patterns and the common places where they are about. But also simple things like, even if you know that there's certain places that you frequent often, to not like have like, let's say you're at a particular restaurant, like the name or the sign of the restaurant, or for kids even having them in like their school uniform, because that also makes it very easily it makes it easy for like kidnappers to know that, oh, okay, this is the school they go at, and the school opens and closes at this time, like all these different things. But just basically to become very vigilant on what you put on social media and how you put it out. So not necessarily to say like you must be completely off social media, but just to be more aware of like what kind of information are you actually sharing out there, and also what kind of information are you giving that can easily serve as, you know, key indicators of where you are, you know, or where your children are and who they're with, and what kind of, you know, pattern do they have from day to day. So those are like the preventative measures. I think one of the things that I really think could be helpful, and these are very just like behavioral things. The first being is, if you are in contact, or you are just in contact or in communication with somebody who you can see is just constantly avoiding eye contact with you, is appearing very anxious, submissive, fearful, this is often a clear sign that this person is somebody who's under distress, and most probably somebody who is possibly a victim of human trafficking. It's just that obviously they're in a situation where they cannot speak out. So just having just like your eyes be like extra vigilant to like people's behavior when they're with you, when they're around you. And I particularly bring this up because another you know, what you call this, experts in this area mentioned that one of the ways in which victims rather of human trafficking are used, they are used for like essentially free or very, very, very like cheap labor, and so this, and he didn't necessarily specify like where exactly their labor will be used, but clearly this is like labor that can be used any and everywhere. So yeah, that is just one of the ways. I think another way is to, if you see somebody where they have got unexplained like bruises and injuries, this is also another, you know, clear sign that something might be off, and you know, to just, you know, be alert. And also, if you are in contact with somebody who doesn't necessarily, you know, have all their, you know, necessary required documentations. This point, though I understand, you know, where I guess the experts were coming from, the place where the experts were coming from when it comes to this one, I find it rather difficult to use it as a way to kind of like, you know, pinpoint if somebody is in this very like, you know, severe situation, because also we are in a country that does have, you know, a lot of, you know, foreign nationals who are undocumented. So that one for me, I was just like, it could be a hit or a miss, but it is a point that I guess we could make ourselves aware of, right? And so basically, guys, these are some of the things which I read about, which I thought were interesting, and I thought they could be helpful in just helping us all keep an eye out when we are out and about, when it comes to, you know, people that we are engaging with and we are meeting with day to day. Because this particular story of this recent raid that was done by the Hawks could not have happened had it not been for the bravery of that one victim who escaped and went to a local resident, but also had it not been for that resident taking their cry and their plea for help seriously, we would not be having this conversation today. So I think this is just a clear indication that, you know what, at any given point in time, you can be somebody who is going to be serving as a solution to this current crisis that we are having. So with that, let's always just keep our eyes open and remain ever vigilant, because the crises continue to compound in our nation. So guys, with that, we are going to move on to Woman of the Week, and I'm really excited to share this Woman's of the Week because you heard my little song at the beginning, okay? So yeah, let's move on to Woman of the Week. We we are now in Woman of the Week. I feel like I should do like my little chair again. Should I? When I say, are you ready? You say, yeah. So for my non-South African viewers, yebo just means yes. So why specifically I say, are you ready? I am saying, are you ready for youth leadership? Are we really ready? And the answer is a definite yes. So the answer is an uncontested yes. So this week I've got two stories to share with you. The first is obviously going to be highlighting everything that's happening in Botswana with their cabinet. We have just heard that they have two young female ministers. One is Lesego, and she is a 26-year-old, and she's the Minister of Youth, and she is joined by the very beloved, she was the former minister, I believe, of Investment, Trade and Industry back in 2018. Bogolo Joy, she is coming back as well as the Minister of Minerals and Energy. So this is exciting because, guys, young people are ready, and I think this shows us that when afforded the opportunity, they make the things happen that need to be done. Okay, so anyways, what you call this? So the Minister Lesego, when she had made her first public address, I really appreciated what she said, because it's something that aligns so perfectly with what I have come to really be a firm believer on. And I just want to read here something that was outlined in her vision, I guess, as a minister for this office. She said, "Our country's young people and women hold the key to our future. My goal is to ensure their voices are amplified in every policy space and their potential is unlocked for the benefit of Botswana." Something that really stood out for me is what she said in how she wants to ensure that the voices of young people are amplified. If you've watched the intro video of this channel, something that I have come to really be such a firm believer of is amplifying voices and multiplying faces. And this was something that I learned from a previous organization that I worked in, from Mrs. Russell Michelle, and she has been a key advocate in this. And I think for me, why this particular ideology is so significant is because of how I really came to realize in the work that I have been doing, how those of us who find ourselves, whether it is in tertiary education, whether we are in corporate jobs where you are sitting in various boardrooms and in certain meetings, whether you are part of youth networks and movements, or you have any kind of platform that allows you access to various rooms where decisions are made, or you are able to rub shoulders with people of power and leaders of industry. The number of people who have that kind of access and privilege are so few compared to the large demographic of young people that we have on this continent. And considering that, I think we sometimes underestimate how people like myself and some of my fellow colleagues are really privileged in the access to spaces that we find ourselves in, and are really privileged to access to the knowledge of the things that we know about, are really privileged to access to the networks that we have, and so much more. And I really do think that it is less than 15% of the collective youth demographic of this continent that can be able to say that they can have these privileges that I just mentioned. And so her saying that she's wanting to amplify voices outside of that reason I've just shared, it's also really significant because as a African youth or as a African people, we are not homogeneous in our nature. That simply means that we are not all the same. We don't have the same demands. We don't have the same aspirations. We don't have the same wants. We don't all have the same needs. We are in a country that has a continent rather that has 54 different countries or 54 different states, and many of these states have got a populace really like ranging in the millions, and some of them even hundreds of millions, right? And so you can imagine that in us representing, or in us saying that we want to speak for young people, or we want to speak for women, we do need to understand that we are not speaking for a collective body that is just moving in unison as just like one cell that just constantly wants the same thing. And I think maybe this is the difficulty, or this has posed a great difficulty in like the whole ideology of unity and Pan-Africanism, right? It's just the vast differences. But I'm not saying, where I'm at is that what she is saying is basically going to mean that young people who will not have access to the rooms that she will have access to, young people who will not have access to the information that she will have access to, will at the very least be able to have their voices heard and their demands at the very least met with acknowledgement. Can I say that again? Their demands met with acknowledgement. So acknowledgement to the fact that, oh, okay, this is what young people want. This is what young people are saying. This is what young people are, what you call this, making a call for. And that's, my friends, is just a very significant first step in us really tapping into the potential of young people, as well as the potential of women. So I really, really love that. Also, it is also quite the joy to have Minister Bogolo Joy back. I do just want to share some of the major things that she did in her previous portfolio as minister, because I think, if anything, this highlights that this lady has got a track record of success, and it should make us even more, expectant, because of how she has set a standard of excellence and she had delivered. Okay, so I'm looking forward to see what she's going to do this time around in her capacity as the Minister of Minerals and Energy. So back in 2018, when she was Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry, she brought the introduction of groundbreaking policies to support local entrepreneurship, small and medium enterprises, as well as investor-friendly reforms. One of her hallmark achievements was streamlining business registration processes, decentralizing services, and empowering rural economies. These initiatives enabled local entrepreneurs to access opportunities that were previously out of reach, a very vital step in creating a more inclusive economy. So we can see that a great thing that she championed was the creation of a robust ecosystem of young entrepreneurs who could actually have the ability to just dream bigger. And I think props and kudos to her on that. It's just like, show her some love. But anyways, I think this is just quite a great power move that the Botswana's government has done, especially in a time where the challenges that they are facing are calling for innovative and new strategies to take the country to the next step. So again, just well done. Well done. And then the final story, guys, that I want to share is going to be talking about how men and boys in Egypt are standing up against female genital mutilation, so FGM. So if you're not aware of what FGM is, this is basically when young girls have to undergo a kind of surgical operation whereby their private parts, I'm trying to remember if these words are permitted to be said on this platform, but yeah, essentially they have to undergo a very brutal reconstructive surgery of sorts, whereby depending on the culture and the context, these operations, they vary, and the kind of mutations that are done, they also do vary. So yeah, in an upper village, in a village in Upper Egypt, there is Mr. Waba, and he is well known for his advocacy against FGM. The story here goes on to share how this was just a father who didn't know much about this, but took it upon himself to get well informed about the topic and use the resources and the platform that he has to basically challenge the status quo and ask cultural, I guess, the watchmen and the watchguards of culture and asked them why it is that young girls have to do this. And he really started, one of the things he's also done is organize sessions as part of the UNFPA's generation dialogue, to basically try and see how they can get rid of these very harmful practices by really encouraging communities to start acting as agents of change, and really serve as a bridge of having these cultural norms catch up to to new modern times and realities that young women find themselves in. And this is a very significant issue that is being tackled, considering the fact that about 86% of ever married women aged between 15 to 49 in Egypt have undergone some kind of procedure, thus illustrating how many women have really been exposed to this very harmful practice that really has long-lasting impact. I think when you start listening to a lot of interviews conducted by advocates of FGM and just some of the long-lasting impacts this operation has on them, it really is devastating, and it's something that I really do think has to be put to a stop. So this is just, again, a great illustration of how men can stand as allies and just use their own power, their own privilege to assist. And I particularly say their own power because one thing I have learned in the work that I previously used to do within the gender-based space is that men respect men in the same way that power recognizes power. And so sometimes where a woman's voice and where a woman's abilities and capabilities end is just exactly where a man's powers begins. And hence why I say that many a times men can serve as great allies to have these kind of issues be dealt with and ultimately put to a stop. So guys, with that is the Woman Across Africa segment, and now we will be moving to Woman of the Week. Everybody say woo. Guys, as always, if you made it this far, you are the what? .com. Guys, we are in the final segment of the show, Woman of the Week. I'm going to really try to keep it short with this one because our time has come to an end. Oh, so sad. But this week's video, it's not of a recent story, but I think it is one that I think definitely deserves to be highlighted, and it is going to be taking us to Senegal. And the woman we are meeting is Anata Babakar, and she is a 40-year-old business executive who was one of the women, or rather in her case the only woman who ran for presidential office whilst Senegal was having its elections last year. I think her story is important in how, though she did not win, and though there was a lot of anticipation for the fact that she really did not stand any chance of winning, her run did serve a very significant it did serve as a significant push forward, right, for the involvement of women. I don't believe just only in politics, just in all areas, right, where women are not often seen as leading. And I think these kind of stories are important because when you are able to see that kind of representation directly in front of you, it changes your vision, it changes your beliefs of what is possible, and it changes your own self-confidence as a woman, or particularly a young girl. So I really think that the story has to be highlighted, because another thing that I found really interesting upon reading about this wonderful leader's story is that in the past decade, Senegal has had a very slow progress when it comes to the advancement of women's rights and women's representation. So with that being said, guys, do enjoy the clip, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, the conversation does not simply end on this wonderful screen here. We do continue the talks in the comment sessions, and I do look forward to hearing everything that you guys have to say, guys, in South Africa and everywhere else, because I do think that human trafficking, kidnapping is not limited to our country. Stay safe, remain ever vigilant. Also, like, comment, subscribe, share this with so many other people, because I think this information is important, it's needed. Let's all be aware, let's all stay safe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
A woman attempting to make history. Senegal's only female candidate in the country's upcoming presidential elections has pledged to improve working conditions and training for young people with a focus on women. Anta Babakar Ngom launched her campaign for the presidency in the suburban Dakar district of Pikini, where she was born.
Women in power will not forget to actually help those women. And once you solve the youth's problem, such as having access to jobs, as I always say, 50% of women's problems will be solved.
Now the head of the largest poultry company in the country, the 40-year-old Babakar says if elected, she plans to champion women in the same way she claims to have done in business.
In my first term, the first 5 years, I'll be creating 5 million jobs for those 5 years for all young people, I would say, but 2 million out of them will be dedicated to women.
In Senegal, women make up half the population. Ngom is hoping the large base of undecided women voters can help tip the balance in her favor.
As an industrial captain, I've helped a lot of women, financing them, training them, showing them more opportunities. And those women, they are now the one talking for me. They say, Anta Babakar has helped me in the past. So if she's a president, she will help more women.
Few expect Ngom to be among the leading candidates for the presidency. Still, her candidacy means a lot for a large chunk of the nation's electorate. Since 1963, only men have governed, from Leopold Sédar Senghor to Macky Sall, but now it is time for a new generation to take over, and it is women who will lead this beautiful country.